The show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
My mic was muted there for a second.
I was finna say.
I started talking. Yeah, I have that little cue for myself at the top of every show, and I hit it, and I didn't hear anything. And I looked down, and the cough switch was on. I blame Steely. Steely left the cough switch on.
Your mic's off, and my light was off, so I should probably turn that on so the people on YouTube can see me.
Taking us a couple minutes to settle in here on Locked In, definitely. It's they had us in the first quarter.
They had us on the first drive.
Yeah, on the first drive. That's more accurate. They had us on the first drive. Not gonna lie, we're gonna shake back better. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, where so many of you interact on a daily basis, and we appreciate those of you that do. This show brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno, family owned and operated, established in 2020, but many of their employees have been out there for more than 20 years. They got the best service technicians, friendly service advisors that put your needs first, and half-price oil changes on Saturdays. So tap in with Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno. They're offering some of the best trucks and SUVs on the road via GMC. So, again, 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Another twist in the Bowe Bentley saga, Grayson. Now, we talked about it last week. Would you rather have the first visit or the last visit with Bowe Bentley? And at the time, Oklahoma was scheduled for the first official visit. The plan was he was going to go to OU June 13th through the 15th. He was going to go to LSU June 20th through the 22nd. I actually visited with Bowe Bentley on Friday afternoon. As of then, that was still the plan. OU on the 13th, LSU on the 20th. And either way, we were going to have something to talk about when I came in here. Because the thing that you always got to worry about if you don't have the first visit, and the thing that maybe if your school does have the first visit, you're getting a little bit optimistic about is, well, there's always the chance you just convince the kid to shut it down and commit, right? There's always a chance if you have the first visit, you can win him over and he feels like he doesn't need to see the other school or schools in the mix. And so that was something that going into the weekend, Oklahoma might have been able to lean on in the Bowe Bentley recruitment. But now, Grayson, that's not the case. They're going to get the last visit. Bowe Bentley is going to visit LSU on May 30th and June 1st. He is going to be at Oklahoma June 6th through the 8th. It will be his final OV, just two. Georgia's officially out of the picture. It's the Sooners or the Tigers. And Oklahoma will get their shot. Now, here's why this is significant. Obviously, in addition to the fact that he's a four-star quarterback that is very badly wanted by two of the premier football programs in the country. And so any significant news surrounding his recruitment is notable. But Bowe Bentley made it very, very clear when I visited with him on Friday that he's taking both visits. He's not going to make a decision any sooner than that. He's going to take both visits, and then whenever he, quote-unquote, has that feeling, he's going to lock in his decision. And so, on Friday, the feeling was, well, okay, Oklahoma definitely is not going to be able to convince him not to go to LSU. But now it's quite the opposite, right? LSU is not going to be able to prevent him from going to Oklahoma. So the Sooners are going to get the chance to make the final and decisive impression with Bowe Bentley. Your reaction to this bit of news is what?
It works out, I think, for Oklahoma. And Oklahoma has this recruiting strategy where they like to pull on heartstrings, with the soul mission and the faith-based culture that they have. So when you get the last visit, if your recruiting strategy is maybe not predicated, but a large factor of it is based on emotional appeal, faith appeal, things of that nature with the soul mission, is especially. Getting the last visit works in conjunction with that. Maybe not as much as the first, because first impressions are cool. Last impressions are obviously lasting. It's in the word. So if that can be the lasting impression of, man, this is like a tight thing, there's something more going on than just ourselves, and you can hammer that home in a last OV, as what's going to be in the case, I think that works in favor for Oklahoma with just the way they do things.
Now, Friday was the very first time I've gone face-to-face with Bentley. I'll say this much, Grayson, and you and I were talking about this earlier. I can't really explain this. It's just, when I've been in this industry for years, gotten to know and gotten to cover hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of recruits. And you kind of learn which ones are OU guys and which ones aren't. There's a sixth sense you sort of develop. Is this guy an OU guy or not? Very same reason, very first time I went face-to-face with Samuel Masigo. He hadn't even cut his recruitment down yet. I don't think he'd scheduled any OVs, but it was very clear to me, yep, that's an OU guy. Grant Bricks, a lot of people remember that recruitment. Blue chip offensive lineman from the state of Iowa who went down to the wire between Oklahoma and Nebraska very nearly to signing day in the year 2023. Grant Bricks was a Nebraska kid. He was. Something that, I really didn't want to acknowledge because he said great things about OU, and there was a feeling on the OU side that they were going to get him, and there was a lot of confidence in that regard. And so it was something I kind of ignored and pushed to the side for the longest time, but he really was a Nebraska kid. He had that Nebraska vibe more than that Oklahoma vibe. Caden Durham. Remember Caden Durham? Double OU legacy. Both his parents ran track at Oklahoma back in the day. Grew up in Moore, moved when he was in 8th grade, I think, down to DFW. Kid had every reason in the world to go to Oklahoma, and OU fans had every reason in the world to believe that kid was coming home to Oklahoma. But Caden Durham, there was an LSU vibe about him. And so what I've learned is that you don't ignore this. Is it deterministic? Not necessarily, but you pay attention to it with each of these kids. And Bowe Bentley strikes me as an OU guy. Again, maybe that means nothing, maybe that means everything. But I've learned over the years, Grayson, that that's not an instinct you ignore.
It shouldn't be one you ignore. And quite frankly, I'm still learning what the OU thing is. Having been in Norman for now, 10 months going on since I moved here. But OU seems to have something different about its program in a way that can be a little bit dangerous in the fact that you can't niche yourself down too much. Now, to that same point, they haven't done so, and they're still getting really good players that can fit the vibe and fit the culture. We've talked a lot about players who have not done that. We've have hilarious examples of that we've broken down when you and I have done radio together. But I think the fact that you have a culture and you know what kind of guys are going to fit in and still be good ball players, and you can still go out and get that, I think that does speak volumes about having a foundation and the fact that when you're grounded in something, you can still be – I guess we're successful may be a little bit of a liberal term given how Brent Venables' tenure has gone so far. But and in that same vein, if you are grounded and then can build success off of that, that looks really good for you as a program.
The texts have begun to fly in at 405-651-3439. Joe in Tulsa says, my gut wants Bentley, and this is back to the Bowe Bentley, Jaden O'Neal discourse. My gut wants Bentley. His style fits Arbuckle, and I feel he is going to be the better quarterback 4 years from now versus Jaden O'Neal. This 405 listener asks, what are Bentley's priorities? He doesn't seem like a recruit that would be swayed by glitz and pomp. No, he's really not. Bentley is a guy that values honesty, transparency, which he says both Ben Arbuckle and Joe Sloan, the OC and quarterbacks coach at LSU, have been with him. And he wants to feel like a priority at his school of choice. He does feel like a priority at both OU and LSU, but ultimately he's trying to go somewhere and get developed, compete for championships, give himself an opportunity to play NFL football and be a first-round draft pick, right? Nothing earth-shattering, nothing out of the realm of the ordinary. That's what a lot of quarterbacks want. But Bentley is certainly a guy who is gifted enough to realistically have that expectation of himself and want to go play for one of the premier offensive minds in football so as to give himself that chance to play in the NFL a few years down the road. And Ben Arbuckle? Now, Joe Sloan and LSU, they got a great recruiting pitch, right? Joe Burrow just won the Heisman in 2019.
As did Jaden Daniels
won the Heisman in 2023. Bentley pointed out, hey, looks like Garrett Nussmeier's in for a big, big fall at LSU, which is 100% true. Ben Arbuckle, though, he can claim a lot of credit for the development of Cam Ward. Not all of the credit, but he can claim a lot of it.
But a decent amount.
Yeah. Cam Ward was a first-round pick, obviously. And then John Mateer, what's interesting is if you go to Bowe Bentley's profile on 24/7 Sports, for every prospect that they do in-person evals on, they will come up with a player comp. And who would Bowe Bentley's player comp be but John Mateer? So not only is John Mateer coming off the most prolific season in college football at the quarterback position in 2024, but he's also very, very similar in terms of his play style and athletic ability to Bowe Bentley.
4-star Evan from Blanchard on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Bentley being an OU guy is great news, considering if there were a program that is the cultural antithesis of OU, it is probably LSU.
Ain't that the truth, man? And again, like that's why I bring it up, because there's a very stark contrast, right, between OU as a program and LSU as a program.
Forget having to have a certain personality composition to go play for LSU. You have to have a certain personality composition to go live in Baton Rouge.
Oh, man. Couldn't be me.
I feel like I'd have some fun in Baton Rouge.
Oh, perhaps. Look, I don't begrudge anybody that enjoys the scene at a particular locale, but I'll be completely forthright and honest about places and cities and states that don't move the needle for me. I've said that a lot about Las Vegas on this show. I feel the same way about Baton Rouge and, for the most part, the state of Louisiana. Louisiana does actually have some nice spots, nice pockets. It's kind of like Florida in that sense, where if you find an okay spot in Louisiana, you're doing all right, but there's just there's a lot of wasteland elsewhere.
I mean, you think about LSU's culture over the last, 10 years or so. Who are the faces of that program? Odell Beckham Jr., Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I mean, I don't know that much about Bowe Bentley, but he probably doesn't seem next in line in that lineage.
Chris from Knoxville says, so Bowe isn't going to ask where the women at, LOL. No.
Probably
Don't
not.
get it. Don't get this. I will say this, and I don't know how much this matters. I know it doesn't matter much to OU and Ben Arbuckle specifically, but Bowe Bentley is not very tall. He is not short, but he's listed at 6'3". I mean, I'm about eye to eye with Bowe Bentley, and
so
I'm 6'1".
6'1"?
So yeah, I'd put him at 6'1". He's not much taller than that, and obviously John Mateer's not very tall. Peyton Houston, whom Oklahoma really likes in the 2027 class, is not very tall. Michael Hawkins isn't very tall. He's only 6'1" as well. So I'm not sure how much that matters to you, the listener, but that is one very stark difference between Jaden O'Neal and Bowe Bentley, is that Jaden O'Neal, and we've discussed this, like if we're talking sheer physique, he is more of the traditional – he has more of the traditional quarterback body.
He's listed on the recruiting sites as a pro-style quarterback.
Correct.
And his play would back that up.
Bowe Bentley is very modern.
Yes.
He's a very modern style of quarterback prospect, which is a word I've used repeatedly with regard to Bentley. But like I said, like John Mateer, modern quarterback.
Very much
Michael
so.
Hawkins, modern quarterback. Peyton Houston and Bentley, for that matter, very much modern quarterbacks. Jay in Tulsa on the text line says, Grayson, you mentioned OU's quote-unquote faith-based culture. Are you inferring they wouldn't recruit a player that did not fall in line with that culture?
No, I'm not. I do think, though, in the context of what we were talking about at the top of the show with getting the last visit of an OV, if you have a faith-based culture and that's part of your selling point as somebody who's getting the last official visit, and that's something that sticks with you and is the lasting impression, that can play in your favor. The emotional appeal, the heartstrings kind of thing, that kind of strategy when you get the last visit can swing things in your favor. That's all I meant by that.
All in all, I do think Oklahoma is going into OV season with a slight advantage in the Bowe Bentley recruitment. It is not insurmountable, and these OVs are going to be what determines the outcome. But I do feel that they are going into OV season with a very slight edge and a leg up. And, like, you can tell. I could tell when I went and met with Bowe Bentley that OU does tug at his heartstrings a little bit. He's a lifelong OU fan, right? If we're being honest with ourselves, if that OU fandom wasn't there, given the presence of Jaden O'Neal in the class, Bowe Bentley probably doesn't think twice about considering Oklahoma, about seriously considering Oklahoma. But at this point, I'm sure he's aware, as are we all, that if he winds up in the class, that probably means a quiet and, rather unceremonious exit for Jaden O'Neal. You'd expect him to land it somewhere like Florida State, if that's the case. But we're not having this conversation right now, I don't think, if Bowe Bentley didn't grow up an OU fan. Because the day he got that offer, January 24th, 2025, if he Googles OU 2026 commits and he sees another quarterback already in the class and he's not the lifelong OU fan that he is, he's probably like, okay, well, not that one. And he's moving on.
Mark and Blanchard, and we can get out of here on this. I'm 5'8" with shoes on. 6'1" is tall.
Yeah. And look, there's a lot more concern to be had if you're talking about a guy who's Kyler Murray's size. Like that's short. For like the reason it works for Kyler is because he's one of the most dynamic athletes in the history of the game.
But he's too short to be a pocket quarterback.
Correct. And there are guys that are too short to be pocket quarterbacks. And look, Dillon Gabriel was 5'11", right? He made it work because he was good at creating throwing lanes for himself, making plays on the run, throwing accurately on the run, going off script, all that stuff. So and Dillon Gabriel's not like a 4'4" dude, so you don't necessarily have to be a 4'4" dude in order to be a person of average height and play the quarterback position effectively at the collegiate level. I have no doubt it can and will work for Bowe Bentley. Okay, keep hitting the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439, 651-3439. This is the Ref Sports Radio Network. You're listening to Locked In. We'll be back on the other side. Keep it here.
Have you or someone you know suffered a loss to your home or business from the recent storms? Before you accept a settlement, call Brown O'Haver at 405-735-5510. Brown O'Haver is a local-based company helping Oklahomans with claims since 1988 with preparation and expert analysis detailing your loss and insurance settlement. As your trusted consultant, Brown O'Haver can give you peace of mind and make sure you're getting what's yours. Call Brown O'Haver today, 405-735-5510, and make sure they're working for you.
We all play a role in keeping our communities safe. Oklahoma is no stranger to attacks. It's now easier than ever. If you see something, say something. The free and anonymous Protect OK app allows instant reporting of suspicious activity, both in schools and the community. You can help keep your family and friends safe.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Download the Protect OK app today in the Apple App or Google Play stores. Funded by the Oklahoma Office of Homeland Security.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
That twinge in your knee isn't going to wait until Monday, and neither do we. At Orthostat, we've expanded, so you get better hours, better facilities, and the same great care. Open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Whether it's sprains, strains, fractures, or joint pain, from knuckles to knees and every joint in between, our same-day, affordable care gets you back to life faster. Visit OuchOrthostat.com to learn more.
Balfour of Norman on Campus Corner has been and continues to be Sooner fans' favorite shopping destination for more than 45 years. When it comes to OU gear, Balfour has the best selection anywhere. Come see the new designs for spring from great brands like Nike, Jordan, Champion, Pressbox, and many others. Balfour has something for everyone with sizes infant through adult and have you covered from head to toe with Sooner hats, shirts, shorts, pants, socks, and everything in between. It's graduation season, so stop by and get something for soon-to-be alums. From diploma frames to OU alumni license plates, auto decals, lapel pins, drinkware, and more. Don't forget about high school grads headed to OU. Give them a Sooner shirt or maybe a Balfour gift card to get them started on their OU journey. You will also find supplies for graduation parties like plates, napkins, balloons, banners, and other supplies. Locally owned, stop by and say hello and check out all the Sooner gear and shop online at crimsonproud.com where you will find everything Sooner.
For decades, Moore Norman Tech has been training skilled and dedicated individuals, giving clear career paths to hundreds of graduates a year. These passionate individuals are the heartbeat of the Oklahoma workforce, serving thousands of companies that fuel this state's economy. Individuals like you. Here's to the next generation of entrepreneurs, craftsmen, and go-getters who will shape the future of this state. Oklahoma is powered by Career Tech.
Now that open enrollment for healthcare coverage has ended, there's still several options to consider that just might benefit you. Need to purchase your own health insurance? Confused about Medicare? Considering offering benefits to your employees? Call the agents at Allison Insurance, featuring 70-plus years of combined insurance business experience. They're able to help clients avoid mistakes when purchasing individual or group health insurance. Call Allison Insurance at 800-580-5587 or 745-2968. They are the experts.
It is locked in here on the. You did it that time. Now we're even.
You know why?
Grayson had my mic muted that time.
There's a hilarious discourse going on in the YouTube chat right now.
Is there really?
Oh my
Let's
God.
hear it. Loop me in.
Mars Jam 2 and Adam, I'm not going to try to pronounce that last name, are going back and forth. Adam has claimed that he talked with Bowe Bentley and Coach Sloan. By the way, this is somebody in our YouTube chat claiming this, not me and Parker. Just to be clear. 95% LSU. I talked with him last week with Coach Sloan. Mars Jam responds, who cares you talk to him? Who are you? Just because you want him at LSU doesn't mean snot. Adam responds, I am one of his teachers. To Mars Jam responds, so what?
Oh, wow.
And he goes on to say, we're just supposed to believe what blank teacher says, followed by the final response, his words mean more than your opinion.
Wow.
This is
peak entertainment
this is
via
fantastic.
the YouTube chat.
YouTube, please keep going at it.
Oh, 405-651-3439 is the Knibbelmeyer Chevrolet text line if you want to chime in there, or just get in the YouTube chat and go at it with Adam and Mars Jam, I guess. Sooner Dave 78 says, forget Bentley's height. The important question is, how big are his hands? It's a Jackson Arnold joke for you. S. Rob Booman says, how tall is Mahomes?
Mahomes is 6'2".
He's 6'2", yeah, and as Rob Booman added, his height doesn't seem to have put him at a disadvantage in winning Super Bowl rings. No, it certainly hasn't. Josh from the 405 says, I honestly hope it ends up being Jaden O'Neal. He's at Mustang High School right now, moved here from California. That's an OU guy right there. Yeah, I mean, that's a guy that went the extra mile to demonstrate that he's locked in with the Sooners, right? But business is business, and if there's a different business decision to be made if Bowe Bentley's in the class, well, so be it. And I don't think Jaden O'Neal or his folks are going to hesitate to make that decision. Reformed Homer asks, in this new recruiting world, is asking about the money up front a red flag, or is it the norm now?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That is a really good question. I will say this. Very rarely will prospects engage schools. Well, I should speak specifically about OU because I don't know how true this is across the board. But as far as Oklahoma is concerned, there are very few recruits that will engage the Sooners right off the bat in the money conversation. And Oklahoma certainly isn't going to start having the money conversations until things are pretty far down the road in the process. If not during OV season, pretty close to it. Like, I know those conversations have started to occur with some of the prospects that OU is after in the 2026 cycle. So I don't know how true it is everywhere else, but shoot, I can recall, and this is towards the beginning of the Venables era, so it's not this way anymore, but there was a prospect in the class of 2023. I won't name him. He wound up signing elsewhere in the P4, spent a year at his school of choice, I believe got dismissed from the program and now plays at a G5 school. But he showed up to Oklahoma and was asking questions and demanding answers about NIL on his very first visit. I want to say this is April of 2022. And OU was just kind of out. They let him know while he was on the visit, hey, if this is the very first thing you're curious about showing up here, this probably isn't the place for you, so we're going to go our separate ways. So, look, is it that cut and dry anymore? No, because I think Venables and his staff have come to understand that they can't just completely shut down the money talk. Because when Brent Venables took the job in December of 2021, I mean, we talked about it at the time. It was true at the time. There was this vision of making Oklahoma a program that never lost guys to the transfer portal, never got guys from the transfer portal.
So Clemson.
And didn't play the NIL game at all. So Clemson. Exactly. Brent Venables' initial mission was in many ways to create a carbon copy, at least structurally, of what Dabo Swinney had done at Clemson. And Dabo obviously had a profound professional influence upon Brent Venables in his career. And so it's completely justifiable. But I think by the end of calendar year 2022, Venables and everybody else in that building had come to understand this is not really, like, we can't afford to operate this way if we're going to recruit and obtain talent on the level that we need to. Because it's one thing when you're at a place like Clemson and when NIL comes into play, Dabo's already been there for a decade plus, and you have everything pretty well established. But when you're trying to rebuild, let's be honest, that's what OU was doing when Venables got to town and Lincoln Riley had just left. There was a rebuild happening there. Probably not as feasible to orchestrate that same type of structure.
It's like when Belichick's assistants would get coaching jobs and try to duplicate the Patriot way. Like, hold on now, there's a process here. But also, to the Clemson point, though, the success at Clemson, when Dabo Swinney was trying to run Clemson as if he was running a team pre-NIL, Clemson took a dip. It wasn't a precipitous dip, but it was a dip nonetheless, and they've had to rebound, and now they're taking guys out of the portal. They're playing that game. They're playing the NIL game. So, I mean, ultimately, I think that experiment and what I guess Brent Venables tried to do at Oklahoma, which has resulted in 2, 6, and 7 years in the first 3, that probably should be something that should not be tried anymore.
On the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, as we shift gears here to other recruiting matters. Jay in Tulsa and another 405 listener would both like to know, who is Tyler Ruxer? Is the Tyler Ruxer smoke real or a smoke script? Well, look, I don't know what kind of smoke there is out there on Tyler Ruxer. Here's what I do know. He took an unofficial visit to Oklahoma on Friday, as we discussed on these very airwaves. We'll have more tonight on the status of his recruitment over at OUinsider.com, but by all accounts, the visit went well. Oklahoma's going to line up an official with Tyler Ruxer, the 3-star tight end out of the state of Indiana, and they feel pretty good about landing his commitment, which is a positive development as it pertains to tight ends. Could this mean a Joe John Finley redemption arc? Ryder Mick's already on board? Tyler Ruxer potentially coming down the chute as well? We shall soon see. But, yes, folks on the OU side are feeling pretty good about the Sooners' chances to land Tyler Ruxer out of the state of Indiana. We'll see if things hold there. We'll see when his OU official visit gets scheduled. Another interesting phenomenon that we are now witnessing is that Oklahoma is making additional offers in the 2026 class on the offensive line, Grayson. New offer out today to Devin Robeson. 3-star, 6'3", 315-pound interior offensive line prospect from Pasadena Memorial High School in Houston, Texas. So, at this point in his recruitment, he's got a Houston offer, he's got a TCU offer, he's got a Baylor offer, he's got a Stanford offer. So, a lot of those second-tier offers. Oklahoma threw a hat in the ring for Devin Robeson earlier today. I am told an official visit should come together pretty quickly here, probably for the Champ U barbecue, so we will keep an eye on that. But you could infer, Grayson, that this is a reactionary move now that Pupunga Toa Katoa is officially off the board to SMU. That was a long-time priority interior offensive line target for the Sooners. He's 100% done. He's committed to SMU. He's not taking any of his remaining officials. And so the board had gotten a little bit narrower for Oklahoma. Now they've expanded it a bit. Devin Robeson will OV with the Sooners next month.
And you needed that because you also need a contingency plan in case Noah Best chooses SMU over Oklahoma. So keep that one in mind too. Now they needed to expand the board, and good on them going down to Houston and finding a guy. And when an official visit is expected to come together as quickly as you said, you're probably at least in that guy's top, 3 or 4 at worst.
So Katoa goes to SMU. Oklahoma responds by offering Devin Robeson. Here's what I'm waiting on, Grayson. I'm waiting for Oklahoma to expand the board at offensive tackle because that has not yet happened. And I will be 100% candid here. I do not think Oklahoma's going to wind up with Carter Scruggs.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
They've been in it. I don't think they've ever been higher than 3rd, in my opinion. And it's getting to the point where I don't feel like that's going to materialize.
Where do you think that ends up? Michigan?
I would say Clemson or Penn State.
Okay.
Those are the two that I'm watching there. But I don't think they get Carter Scruggs. I do like where they stand in Deacon Schmidt's recruitment, the 4-star offensive tackle out of the state of Colorado. They look good there, but Gene Reardon came off the board to Iowa. Things never really got that far down the road between Oklahoma and Zayden Krempin, the talented tackle from Prosper. Felix Ojo is going to OV, but I think most everyone understands that there's probably not going to be a whole lot of traction there when push comes to shove between Ojo and OU once decision time rolls around. And so, outside of Schmidt, who do you feel good about at offensive tackle? There's really nobody else on this list, Grayson. There's really nobody else that I look at and I can say, okay, yep, feel pretty good about OU's shot with so-and-so. And thus, it begs the question, does Oklahoma make what seems to be the most sensible offer imaginable at offensive tackle, which is to toss an offer to Daniel McMorris up at Norman North. 6'6", 275 pounds, legit Power 4 prospect who now has north of 20 FBS offers.
He's been on a roll.
Mm-hmm. And look, if Oklahoma doesn't get involved, we talked about no shortage of P4 suitors here. Texas Tech, Wisconsin, Iowa State, Arizona State. The team I like best in the mix right now, though, is Kansas State. I would probably consider him a lean to K-State until or unless Oklahoma gets involved. But I know for a fact, Grayson, that there are some influential people in the OU circle that have been pushing for Bill Bedenbaugh and the staff to pull the trigger on Daniel McMorris. I also know the OU staff plans to go out and eval Daniel McMorris in person this week at one of Norman North's practices. It actually would have been today, but they canceled team activities due to the inclement weather here in the Sooner State. So, look, I've been on this train for months. It seems like we may be getting close to this territory, Grayson, where they finally get involved with Daniel McMorris. And I think what's important to hear is that if the Sooners toss an offer Daniel McMorris's way, there are very, very strong odds that they are landing him. I mean, immediately. And I think it's, even if you didn't know what was going on in the Daniel McMorris recruitment, you could pretty reliably infer this for a Norman kid, that if the Sooners get involved, immediately you probably feel more confident about them landing that guy than anybody else on the offensive tackle.
And here's the PR spin with this, too. This is coming. This is why this needs to happen. Because you are coming off of a situation where you screwed it up with Mason James. Now, whether that was intentional or not.
He dropped to top 5 today, and OU was still in it, which was
okay. But we all know what's going on.
Yeah, we know
when it comes to Mason James. But you basically just dumped a dude who, from everything I think, probably wanted to go here, and
I believe he's taken 15 unofficial visits to Oklahoma since he got offered in November 2023.
Need I say any more about that one? So, I mean, here's the reality of the situation. You caused the reaction of like, oh my goodness, why are we just dumping guys that are in our backyard? That's why this needs to happen, so you can continue to foster those relationships in state, which was another conversation we had a couple of weeks ago. Is Oklahoma's classes getting smaller and smaller in terms of Oklahoma nativity? So that's why the McMorris thing needs to happen. I was looking this up with Lincoln Riley's recruiting class at USC right now. And he was a dude that did not recruit California very well at first. I'd say 85% of those commits now, 85% of the 27 that they got right now, are from the state of California.
85% might be a little heavy, but the point is an accurate one.
At least 3/4.
Yeah, the point is a true and accurate one. They've recruited the state of California much more intently than they have in recent years. I actually think that has a lot to do not with the influence of Lincoln Riley or Lincoln Riley coming to some realization, but the influence of new general manager Chad Bowden, who's pulling a lot of strings out there.
But either way, it's happening.
It's the right strategy.
And I think the right strategy for Oklahoma would be, we gotta get these guys that are in the state, much less down the street.
Mm-hmm. A 405 listener wants to know, where did Josh Isosa end up? He landed at West Virginia. So Josh Isosa, former 3-star signee for the Sooners out of Edmond Santa Fe High School, spent a year at OU in 2024, just transferred last month to West Virginia. So that's where he's going to be moving forward. All 4 years of eligibility at his disposal. So he gets to reunite with Zach Alley. Fun times for him.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I have long been on board with an OU offer to Daniel McMorris. I think the ceiling there is immense. I don't think he's somebody that sees the field at Oklahoma for at least a year, probably two. But come year 3, the guy that you could have turned him into between Bill Bedenbaugh's technical tutelage and Jerry Schmidt's weight room development, he's a guy that could immediately step into a starting role come year 3 and contend for all conference honors. I think he has that much potential. I think he's that good. Okay, 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. We'll wrap up Locked In with more OU Cruton talk on the other side. Keep it right here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
The word is spreading, and the Ref Army is growing. Keep telling your friends and family that there's only one station for true Sooner fans, and that's the Ref Radio Sports Network, and worldwide on the KREF app.
Beats and Bites Festival is back again at Riverwind Casino, where good grooves and great food are on tap all summer long. Kicking off on June 14th with Josh Turner.
Would you go with me?
And Edwin McCain. Along with crave-worthy eats from local food trucks, there's something for everyone. Get your tickets online or at the box office for just $10. Only at Riverwind Casino.
Why don't we just dance?
Insurance companies aren't in the business of saving you money, they're in the business of taking your money. Hi, this is Will Gosney with Yala Gosney Attorneys at Law. Have you ever had an insurance claim and thought, wow, I really am in good hands, or these folks truly are treating me like a neighbor? Well, that's where we can help. We'll deal with the stress, we'll get you back to your normal life. So save our number in your phone, and if you're ever hurt in a wreck, call or text us at 405-800-8080. It's 405-800-8080.
Are you looking to elevate your golf game in 2025? Westwood Golf Course in Norman can help. Now's the time to get your annual memberships, and they're open 7 days a week. The 50th annual Westwood Invitational is July 4th, 5th, and 6th, so be sure to register early this year. Play after 2 p.m. for just $28 or after 5 p.m. for just $23. You can always book your tee time at westwoodparkgolf.com, and don't forget to visit the Turn Grill inside Westwood, one of the local gyms in Norman.
Dreaming of your own backyard oasis? Be the envy of your neighborhood and let Signature Custom Pools help you create the perfect poolside paradise. Their professional design expertise can transport you into your own Mystic Falls, suburban sanctuary, or Mediterranean retreat. Settle into an endless vacation, entertain your family, friends, and get the signature touch with Signature Custom Pools. Call them for a free consultation at 405-898-9098 or visit them online at signaturecustompools.com today.
Memorial Day deals are here at Eskridge Honda. Take $2,500 off MSRP on a new 2025 Ridgeline RTL. Plus, get 1.99% APR. You get both during our Memorial Day deals at our new location, 89th and I-35, or online at eskridgehonda.com.
$2,500 off MSRP on stock number 250624. 1.99% APR for 24 to 36 months. WAC through Honda Financial Services. See dealer for details. Offer ends 5/31/25.
Thanks to generous community support, Wounded Warrior Project has helped post-9/11 veterans and their families since 2003. Through no-cost physical and mental health services, legislative advocacy, career assistance, and life skill training, we're there every step of the journey.
It's possible to feel understood.
To get support when it's needed most.
And now I know anything is possible.
And we're just getting started. Learn more at woundedwarriorproject.org/possible.
Hi, this is Lisa Talley, broker and owner of Aria Real Estate Group. Aria Real Estate Group is Norman's premier full-service commercial and residential real estate brokerage and leasing and management firm. With our team of real estate agents, specialized property managers, and in-house maintenance team, Aria is here for you in every capacity. Whether you're a seller, a buyer, an investor, or a renter, we can help. Please explore our website at ariagroupok.com. Aria Real Estate Group, the gold standard of real estate.
Being blind doesn't always look how others may think.
Retinitis pigmentosa aimed to overwhelm my family.
It tried to cut me down. I know where to find support and where I can be seen.
Innovative research, educational resources, supportive community. The Foundation Fighting Blindness is leading the charge of treatments and cures for blinding diseases. Donate today at fightingblindness.org. A public service message from the Foundation Fighting Blindness.
Oh, this is invigorating. Apparently, Grayson, our show has the stamp of approval from Bowe Bentley's choir teacher. I don't know if Bowe Bentley is in choir, but a teacher A choir teacher who happens to know the Bentleys, I guess. His name's Adam. He's been in the YouTube chat. I guess you mentioned him. This must be the same Adam.
Yes, it is.
And he said, great stream, by the way. I am listening while entering grades. Never been here, but it has great meat on the bone and not just speculation. Like it.
Are they still in school down there in Texas? I guess I could ask my sister.
They're wrapping up if they haven't already wrapped up, they're wrapping up in the next few days.
Oh,
so
okay.
I would imagine it's finals week or immediately in the aftermath of finals week
that's
for Adam and the folks down there in Celina. So, but Adam's apparently a big LSU guy. I think that's what we take away from the YouTube chat today. So great to know that even an LSU guy such as Adam can get on board with an OU recruiting show.
Adam has said he is not in choir. And he also says this week is their last week. Graduation is Friday.
Graduation is Friday. Hey, thanks for listening, Adam. We appreciate your insights. We appreciate your listenership. I was just down there in Celina on Friday. Awesome place.
It's a really cool place, isn't it?
Awesome school, awesome football stadium, awesome people, too. Bill Elliott, the head coach there at Celina, great dude. Nathan Elliott, the OC, awesome as well.
Was this your first trip to Celina, or have you ever been down there before it turned into this?
Yeah, I'd been down there before. I'd never been to the school.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, first trip out to the school. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. This listener here in the 405 says, so if Oklahoma doesn't want a guy in state or right down the road, they automatically do something wrong? It doesn't always have to be a negative spin on the coaches or Nagy and et cetera when Oklahoma doesn't get or doesn't want a guy. I'm guessing there's a lot more going on behind the scenes as to why decisions are made. No wonder there is such a negative spin on Oklahoma recruiting from other teams. And look, I think there's a lot to unpack from that text that is on the money because I would hesitate to posit that Oklahoma needs to offer every kid that looks like a P4 kid from their own backyard because I've stumped for Mason James. I think Mason James is going to be awesome at the next level regardless of where he winds up. Like the reason I feel strongly about Mason James is because I'm convinced a lot more so than I am about your typical blue chip recruit in the state of Oklahoma that dude is going to be something special. But for instance, if we rewind to the 2022 recruiting cycle, Oklahoma chose not to take Talon Shetron's twin brother, Tabry, and that led both of them to go play together at Oklahoma State. Talon Shetron has not done a whole lot at Oklahoma State. And I thought he was going to have a really good college career. He hasn't. And so sometimes that evaluation isn't wrong. The quintessential example is always going to be, and shout out to Coach Stoops here, David Cornwell. Some of you will remember David Cornwell. Some of you have no idea who I'm talking about. David Cornwell, I believe he played in high school at both Norman North and then up in Jones High School. He was class of 2014, and it was highly controversial at the time when David Cornwell, who was a borderline 5-star recruit, generated really no interest from Bob Stoops and the Oklahoma staff. He wound up signing with the University of Alabama. And we are talking Alabama in the midst of their dynastic run, right? Like we're talking prime Saban at Alabama. So, I mean, there were columns, there were think pieces written, of course, because OU doesn't even bother to offer this in-state quarterback who then goes and signs with Saban and Alabama when they are at the zenith of their dominance. What did David Cornwell do? Never played a meaningful snap at Alabama, wound up transferring to Nevada, drew 3 starts, threw 5 interceptions and no touchdown passes in those 3 starts, quit the team mid-season, and wound up finishing his collegiate career, I kid you not, Grayson, at East Central University down in Ada, Oklahoma.
You know, and you know how that story was going to end up poorly? I didn't say it at first, but I'll say it now. I'd never heard that name in my life.
Exactly. And so I guess the moral of the story here is when you decide not to take a guy like Mason James, yeah, you're going to catch some flack from your own fan base, okay? But the reason I say I'm going to reserve judgment and I'm going to trust what Jim Nagy and his staff are doing with their evaluation process until I have reason to think otherwise is because there's also a chance that Mason James goes and does nothing of consequence at the collegiate level. Do I think that's going to happen? No, but it's on the table. Nobody is holding Bob Stoops' feet to the fire these days about the decision not to take David Cornwell.
Yeah. And look, I'm right with you. I do think it is, at least for the moment, we are a reactionary society.
Mm-hmm.
But at least for the moment, it's a bad PR look. But I do think he's going to be a stud. A text from the 405 said, "Cool, do Josh Jacobs next."
Well, and that's the other side of the coin, right?
That's the other side of the coin. It's not offering Josh Jacobs.
If you're not going to take a kid that's from your own state, you'd better be right about the eval. You'd better be right. That's what it boils down to. Everybody's going to have very polarizing feelings in the moment, but 5 years down the road, whether or not we are still talking about the recruitment of Mason James is going to come down to what he has done at the collegiate level. And the only reason we'd still be talking about the recruitment of Mason James is if he has performed at a high caliber at a place like Washington or Texas or Missouri or wherever it is that Mason James winds up.
Speaking of Tulsa guys, a text in the 405, any updates on Taj Overton?
Taj Overton is a guy that I like OU for right now. He's going to OV at the Champion Barbecue. Obviously, really talented defensive tackle out of Owasso for those who aren't familiar with him. 4-star kid here in the 2026 cycle. I like OU there. Don't think it's a done deal. Don't have a future cast in. I think OU goes into OV season with an advantage. But there's a lot of guys right now on OU's board going into OV season that I feel like they're in good shape for, but that could very well change, especially because it's an entirely different conversation these days, Grayson, when the money hits the table during OVs, because that's always where it really hits the table. And so you can be sure of much less going into OV season these days than you could once upon a time. For instance, I was very confident going into OV season in the year 2022 that Oklahoma had an insurmountable lead for Caden Green. They wound up getting Caden Green's commitment. It didn't last, right? Like, he spent a year at OU and then transferred to Missouri. So that aside, though, would I be that confident? If Caden Green was a class of 2026 recruit that was going through the process right now, knowing what I know or knowing what I knew about that recruitment in mid-May of his cycle, would I be that confident that OU is going to lock down his commitment? Probably not. There still be a sense of confidence? Sure. That much confidence? Certainly not. Recruiting Boomer says, ew, do Jeremy Shockey. Jeremy Shockey, that's a blast from the past. Yeah, he was an Ada kid.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah. Ada, Oklahoma. I think he went to NEO and then to Miami. It was NEO, right? Correct me if I'm wrong on the text line.
Super Bowl champ.
Super Bowl champ indeed.
Multi-time.
He was there was a time there. There was a period of a couple years where he was in the conversation for best tight end in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Daryl, the 918 Redneck, says, hey, who was the kid that went to Alabama from Owasso recently? Cole Adams. Wide receiver Cole Adams. Cale Gundy caught a lot of grief for taking so long to offer Cale Gundy in the 2023 cycle. He wound up choosing Bama over OU, and that was that. But I think he was Alabama's starting punt returner at minimum this past year. Before getting hurt, he did not play when Alabama came to Norman in November. Shark says, you realize all these text line gurus are pushing paperwork other than recruiting evaluations, so they know they've seen hundreds of hours of tape as well. Yeah, look, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I have mine. You have yours. In the end, we'll all know for certain before too long. And when I say before too long, it may be 4 or 5 years, but we'll all know for certain eventually. And until then, it's fine. We all can have differing opinions. That's what makes sports radio great. By the way, closing note here. Bo Jandro is going to OV to Texas, which is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Because you just had to throw that out there.
Listen, I got to go read the Texas message boards to see what they're saying, if anything, about that situation, because Lord knows he's not going to the University of Texas, right? Like, how stunning would that be if he went to UT? I'm very surprised that Texas is even giving him the chance to OV because, again, I would have thought that after Nico committed to Oklahoma, basically every other school would have just backed off Bowe and said, hey, dude, look, we get it. You're going where your twin's going. We're just going to clear the floor. Texas apparently hasn't done that. They're going to have him in town June 6th through the 8th. So,
I mean, hey, respect.
I guess we'll see what comes of that, but really, really hard to see twin brothers going to school 6 hours away from one another and on opposite sides of one of the fiercest rivalries in all of college sports. But no doubt we'll track that situation and all the rest. We got a lot to talk about tomorrow when we come back on air. Brian Harris, the 4-star defensive lineman from Jacksonville, Florida, making a decision this Friday. Oklahoma, a top contender there. So we will break all of that down and much more when we hit the air tomorrow. Same time, same place. For Grayson, Singleton, I am Parker Thune. Thanks for coming along with the ride here on Locked In on a Monday. We'll see you tomorrow. And until then, Teddy Lehman and Tyler McCullough